welcome back to Jay's Car Channel. In today's video I'm going to be going through my wheel and tire routine. I'm going to go through the different tools and chemicals that I use, and I'm going to also just start out by saying that in some cases you might use 1 or 2 brushes for a car. In some cases you might use 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 brushes for a car, just depending on the wheels and tires and how the car is set up and what type of brakes they have and what type of surface you're dealing with. You could use a variety of different tools, chemicals as well. So just to say that, because each car is different, each scenario is different, so I just want to kind of set that as the first thing that I want to get in everybody's mind. If you're a detailer, you really need to have a variety of tools and chemicals, and I guess people call it your arsenal. You want to have a number of things in your arsenal to be able to cover all the different types of cars that you're going to detail and clean. You need a variety of sizes of brushes, types of brushes, things like that, so that you can cover every type of wheel. So just to lay the groundwork for this video and talk from that angle and that perspective. Now, if you're just doing this for your own car, obviously you just try to figure out, what works best for you. So to get started here, I've got this bucket. This is going to be the wheel bucket. Got my cleaner here, and this is one of my favorite cleaners to use. This is Meguiars Ultimate All Wheel. So and before I really get into everything, I'm going to tell you I've got links in the description for everything, so don't worry about trying to find them or search for them. They'll be in the description. But this Ultimate All Wheel cleaner is awesome. It has a real strong ability to remove embedded brake dust contents. So if you know anything about some of your high performance brakes on some of the cars out today, especially like your German vehicles, they have sometimes a metallic brake content that wears off of the scrubs off of the pads as you're stopping, and they're high performance pads, so they have a lot of surface area, so it dusts quite a bit. This cleaner works really well for those type of vehicles that have high performance brakes with metallic content. Your standard Accord is probably not going to need this strong of a cleaner, but it still will work on any car, any wheel surface. But this one is one of the ones that, if you've seen the videos before, when you spray this onto the wheel, you'll notice it'll start to change colors. So it has a chemical reaction with the metallics that are stuck to the wheel surface, and what it does is it actually dislodges those and decontaminates the wheel face. You don't realize those things are on there, but that's why they're so difficult to clean, is that they're pretty much stuck to the surface. So this will effectively melt them off, and it's really amazing. A lot of the ones, if you've used them, they smell really strong. This one actually has a pretty good smell to it. It's not an overpowering smell, so I really like this one. Now you can go pick this up at AutoZone. You can get it on Amazon, but it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to go there. You can go to AutoZone and O'Reilly or wherever. I've pretty much told myself I'll never go back to O'Reilly, so I shouldn't even mention them. I'd go to AutoZone or Advanced or something like that, or even Walmart. You probably could buy this. But this is the cleaner. Again, this is what you would call a reactive cleaner. I don't use this on all the cars. I like this a lot on the cars that have the heavier brake dust and the more performance oriented brakes. But the one I actually use the majority of the time is called Brake Buster. And I don't have a bottle with Brake Buster on it because I use it inside of one of these. I use it inside of a foamer. And I've just recently learned that apparently Brake Buster does not work well over time in this sprayer. So this is a Hydro Plus by Carbon Collective, so I'm going to figure out something else to use in here for my wheels and tires. Possibly just soap with some all-purpose cleaner. Just anything to go on the surface of wheels that aren't extremely dirty, and wheels and tires, and begin to break down whatever dirt and grime is on them. But this is an awesome thing to use, so I'm still going to recommend this to people. You can also use the IK sprayer. That's what this one is, and so it's manual pumped. It's hand pumped, so you have to pressurize it by hand, unlike the Hydro Plus. But I do have Brake Buster in this one. I would recommend getting one of these to use a wheel cleaner like Brake Buster inside of it, and I usually dilute it 1 to 1, so that's 1 part water, 1 part Brake Buster. and it does a really good job of you know, cleaning your wheel and tire surface. So there are other cleaners out there, and I'm not going to say Brake Buster and Meguiars are the best. They're just good options that I've used, and you know, so you know, whatever you want to use is up to you. You probably want to make sure it's good for the wheel surface that you have. So in some cases people have anodized aluminum and bare metal and all this other stuff, so you just want to check with whatever cleaner you're going to use that it's safe for the surface you're using it on. And when you use these cleaners, one major thing to tell you anytime you're doing the wheels, make sure the surface is cool. Do not go on a hot surface, a car that you've been driving around for miles and miles and miles, and come pull it in and start to cleaning it. That's the wrong idea, because that hot surface is going to heat up these chemicals, and you don't know what kind of reaction you might get out of those chemicals. They're not going to have the time to work and do the job that they're meant to do properly, and then they possibly could etch and cause some other issues, staining, things of that nature. So clean them when they're cool. Do not clean them when they are hot. So that's rule number one. And in conjunction with rule number 1A would be to make sure the chemical you use is proper for the wheel surface that you have. Most OEM cars come with a clear coated finish, but there are exceptions, so you need to know what your vehicle has. So now we're going to get into some of the tools. This is my bucket here with all my wheel brushes inside of it. So I'm going to start with what I use for the face of the wheel, and this is a little Adams wheel brush. It's real nice and soft. I don't think it would harm pretty much any finish. You know, you do have some people that have gloss black wheels. They want to go to a boar's hair for gloss black. This is a synthetic brush, but I'll tell you, you can get the same type of handle and bristle with a boar's hair brush. So you know, if you have gloss black, if I were you, I would go with boar's hair. That's going to be a little bit softer than the synthetic material, I think. But this is very soft, so you know, honestly, it shouldn't do any damage. So this is what I use for the face of the wheel, and it works well. You know, I typically foam the wheel and have this in the bucket with some water, and I'll take this out of the bucket and go straight to the face of the wheel and just start to go across it and try to get into all the little grooves. You know, most wheels this will cover just about everything on the face. And then, you know, I want to also clean the barrel, the inside of the wheel. And so for that purpose, this is a Speedmaster detail brush, and there are a variety of them. This is the large size, and it's really soft as well, and it will get into the barrel. So, you know, depending on the actual wheels themselves, you may have very big openings and be able to get this brush in. This will actually fit into even some tight areas, because these bristles will conform to the area that they're in as you push this into the barrel. But you want to take this in and go across the barrel multiple times. You start from the top of the wheel, go in, agitate, and work your way down to the bottom, and then come. A lot of times I go one side and then I start and go to the other side. So that's my process for this. And you can actually bend this, so you can bend it to reach behind. So that's the awesome thing about these. You can get this one and you can get the smaller one. And they can bend, and you can get behind the actual spoke. So I would say this is probably one of the best brushes as far as design and how it works. There's not a lot of cars that this doesn't work for, the large one, and if the large one doesn't work, then the small one does. So probably want to get the large one and the small one. But again, this goes back to the conversation about your vehicle specifically. You know, if you're a detailer, you probably know a lot about these. If you're just a weekend warrior or you want to keep your own car nice, I would recommend investing in these to get the barrels. You know, and that's actually, you know, behind the face of the wheel. That's the inside of the wheel that you, a lot of times people will neglect that. And if you ever take your car through the wash, then it's definitely not going to get the barrels clean, because the automated wash does not clean anything other than just what it can reach, and it can't reach in there. Another good tool for that is a wheel Woolie. So this is a large wheel Woolie. It's angled so it can get behind the spokes as well. It can get into the barrel. You can use this in the fender well. it has a variety of uses. I've actually used this in engine bay detailing, you know, so it reaches into places that the brush can't get, and it's got, you know, a slim handle so it can get into a lot of tight areas. And this is a large, and there's also a small one I'll show you. So here's the small one, and this one can do a good job of going across the brake caliper. Let's say this is your brake caliper. You can go across the face of it, you can go across the sides, underneath, on the top, all that with this small wheel Woolie. And again, it can get behind the spokes, it can get into the barrel. And so if you have something with a really tight clearance, this would be a good tool to have in your arsenal. Here's another nice little barrel cleaning implement, which is called the Woolywormit. I think that's how it's pronounced, but it's also something that can bend and go back. You can bend it however you need to, shape it how you need to get in and behind the spokes. You know, so if you had a spoke you wanted to get behind, you can bend it like that. You can use it flat to go down inside the barrel, and it's got a really good thick pile to it. This is a microfiber. This is like the chenille wash mitts, basically, with the microfiber, so it's not going to scratch anything. It's soft, you know, so if you got those gloss black wheels, you might want to go for the Woolywormit. You can get this off Amazon. It's also pretty neat that it has your little implement here for your lug nuts. A lot of times I like to pop that off just because it makes it easier to get down to the lugs, but you know, just like this works as well. It's just a big handle to be dealing with something that small, but whatever. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing to have on there. So, and this thing works well to clean the lug nuts. So another nice little thing to use for your barrels, and additionally the lug nuts. This is a trim and lug nut brush, and this is great for getting into the little intricate areas. Some wheels have very tight spaces and curves and things that, you know, the face of this brush may not quite get down into all the grooves, and so this trim and lug nut brush is great for that. So I keep this in my bucket too, and again, you can go with lug nuts to clean through there and like around where your valve stem is. Also the caliper, so you know, if you're trying to get the caliper, and my hand as a caliper is probably not the best shape, but let's just say for argument's sake that this is a caliper, and then I just want to take this trim and lug nut brush and go across the surface to break up any, you know, brake dust that's on there. So this works well for that. Another thing that I like to use is like a utility microfiber towel, and this one I got this one from Shine Supply. You know, they're not a real thick pile. They have dual pile. I think one side's a little thicker than the other. Like this side's thicker than this one, but once you put them into the wash bucket solution in here with some soap, they're really soft, and I like to take these across the surface of the wheel as well, just because I figure that this has more contact patch than the brush does. You know, the brush has bristles like fingers, and this is like almost a solid, you know, something solid here. So I follow the brush with a microfiber towel. Also, before I forget to mention, I like to wear gloves when I'm cleaning the wheels and tires, because you're dealing with a lot of grime, you're dealing with some strong chemicals, and so when you do that, you're going to get some of that on your hands, and I'd rather keep that from getting on my skin. I just like to keep my hands nice. I don't think it's a good idea to absorb some of the chemicals that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and especially not ones that are strong enough to clean oil, grease, and grime and everything. Those are going to be stronger cleaners. So I have this grit guard that works well for scrubbing your brushes when you go into the bucket. So when I go into the bucket with a brush, it's easy for me to take the brush across this grate right here and just agitate it to get any type of junk off of the surface of the brush. So I would recommend putting this in your wheel bucket. Now I'm going to move to tires. And what I'm going to say for one of my favorite chemicals to use for tires is Adam's Tire and Rubber Cleaner. This just really does a good job of knocking off any of the junk that's on your tire, and you can use this inside of your fender wells as well. So it's, You know, really good cleaner. Something that you can use on your trim, you can use on your engine bay, any of your black plastics. This is going to clean them up really nice. So this just, you don't just use this just on your tire. It has a number of things that it can be used on, so it's a really good cleaner. I like it, and I buy it by the gallon. One other cleaner I have that I don't really have a labeled bottle to show you, but it's another good cleaner that I like to use on the tires. It's called Bilt Hamber Surfex HD. And I actually did a video cleaning the seats of my Crown Victoria with Bilt Hamber Surfex HD, and it's highly dilutable. It comes out to one of the cheapest chemicals probably that I have as far as how diluted you can use it and how it can still be effective. I mean, you can dilute that stuff 20 to 1, 50 to 1, and it still does a great job at cleaning. So between Adams Tire and Rubber Cleaner and Bilt Hamber Surfex HD, those two are the ones I reach for the most for cleaning up the tires and the fender wells. And by the way, a lot of times I do use 2 buckets. I use this bucket for my tire stuff, and then I showed you I had a wheel bucket. So a lot of times I will have 2 buckets for my wheels and tires just to keep everything separate, because I feel like from time to time you might have some tires that are extremely grimy that just turns the water black in this bucket, and I don't necessarily want that going onto the wheel surface. So I'm a little anal about it. You don't have to be that way. You can go with 1 bucket, but a lot of times for me I just go with 2. I'll fill this one with just regular water, and then I might put some soap in the wheel bucket. Sometimes I'll put soap in both. So, you know, those are things that you can make the decision on your own. Just depending on how dirty the car is, depends on what I do. So if I've got a car that's extremely dirty, I'm going with soap in both buckets, you know, and I'm definitely going with 2 buckets. You know, if it's a car that's just lightly dirty, I might go with just 1 bucket and no soap at all. But you know, again, that's adjust to what your needs are. So I will say that. So this is the Tough Shine tire brush, and this thing is awesome. It's a cheap little brush. You can find these for under 10 bucks. You can find them for a good price. There are a variety of brushes that look like this that are under different names, and they all are pretty much the same thing. Probably just knockoffs of this one. Probably all made in the same factory, but you know, I'll leave the link to the one that's closest to this. I think the last time I checked, the Tough Shine may have been over $10, which, you know, whatever. But you know, this brush is awesome, and it does a really good job of agitating. Some of your bigger brushes, you're gonna run up against hitting the paint job or hitting the wheel or something like that, and this one's so small and easy to control, you know, that I rarely do I ever come close to even touching anything but the tire. So I really like this one, and this would be my preference for cleaning your tires. This is a fender brush, tire and fender brush by Adams, and I don't even know if they sell this one anymore, because the one they have out there on the site now looks like it's different, but it's probably going to be just about as good. I just haven't used the version that they have out there now, but I'll still see if I can find this one. But I'll sometimes use this on tires, like tires that have wider tread, like bigger, you know, off-road tires. This works well for it because it has a bigger patch, and I use this, but mostly I use this mostly for your fender. I'll also use this on WeatherTech floor mats and truck bed liners, things like that, where I just need to have a lot of reach and a lot of ability. I've used it also. I did a video where I cleaned the floorboards in the Crown Vic, which are rubber. I used it on that. Fenders, this works awesome because you can get up over the tire, come into the fender, and scrub the top of the fender and both sides. You know, you want the inside of your fenders to look nice and black and clean. So this is something where I'll spray some of that tire and rubber cleaner up there, and I'll just start going to work while I'm letting whatever it is that I've sprayed onto the wheel and tire start to penetrate and work. Say I'm starting on my wheel and tire right now. I'm going to foam it down with whatever cleaner I'm using, and I'm going to allow that to start to settle in and do some work before I ever touch the wheel surface. As I'm waiting on that to break down some of the oils and contamination, I'm going to spray tire and rubber cleaner into the fender well, and I'm going to start to clean that with this. Pull this out of this bucket and start to go to work. And then by the time I'm finished with the fender wells, then it's time to move to the face of the wheel. Another tool that I like for fender wells is this Easy Go detail brush, or Go Easy detail brush. Kind of looks like a toilet brush, but it's awesome for your fender wells. So it really does do a good job. It's got a lot of agitation, but it's not going to scratch the plastic, so it makes it look really nice. Some of your fender wells are actually going to be carpet material, so it works well on that too. And I also mentioned your wheel Woolie. So sometimes this and this will have trouble getting into your fender wells, so I'll reach for this. And this wheel Woolie can get in places that these other two brushes can't sometimes. So, you know, these three things are primary for my fender wells. Going back to the tire, this is a Klin Green Monster, and this thing I like to go behind the Tough Shine brush. So after I've scrubbed the tire, and then it's got all the foam on it, I take this Green Monster, take it out of the bucket wet. Usually I'll kind of wring it out and I'll go across the face of the tire, and you'll notice a lot of times it'll pick up a lot of stuff that this brush is, you know, it's probably just agitated it and loosened it up, and this has done the final step in pulling it off of the tire surface. When you get a tire that somebody's been spraying a lot of silicone dressing on, you're going to have to go multiple rounds, and you're probably going to have to spray the cleaner on there. I usually go with about 30 sprays of tire and rubber cleaner for the first round, and then if it's still not foaming up white when I'm scrubbing it with the brush, if it's still foaming brown, then I'll go with a second. I'll probably spray it with 20 sprays the second time. So I've actually got another Green Monster that I pretty much have dedicated to extremely grimy tires that I don't really care that much about it. This one I keep for my nicer cars that don't have as much of that junk on them. But again, you just have to be able to adjust. And one thing I've found is when you spray those type of tires down with tire and rubber cleaner, the longer you let this dwell on those tires, kind of the better off you'll be. I'm not saying let it dry, but spray it on there and let it sit for, you know, at least a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and then you may even spray another couple sprays into it before you take the tire brush to it, and it will break down that silicone tire dressing pretty well. Same with Bilt Hamber Surfex HD. Either one of those is going to work to remove that type of stuff. But I just wanted to cover that because some people run their cars through the automated wash and never have them detailed. Some people, you know, like to clean their own vehicles and keep them nice, but even those people sometimes will use a dressing that has a lot of silicone. I tend to stay away from those. I like a water-based dressing, something that doesn't build up as much. And to transition into that, now that we've talked about wheels and tires, this is a Sidekick blaster. This is forced air. It's heated. It's heated and it's filtered, and it does a good job of drying your wheels and tires. The reason you would want to use this, there's kind of a twofold reason. The first thing is you can get all the standing water off of your wheel surface so you don't have water spots. The second thing is you can dry your tires so you're not waiting on them to dry, so you can quickly apply whatever dressing you want to. And that leads me into the dressing of choice that I like to use. That's PERL by Car Pro. That stands for plastic, engine, rubber, and leather. And I use this 3-to-1 diluted. That's 3 parts water to 1 part pearl. And it does a nice satin finish on the tire. You can also use this on your fender wells so that when your fender wells are kind of looking a little worn, you can put this in there and it'll darken them up real nice. It makes them look nice, and it makes the car look that much better because your eyes aren't drawn to something that's, you know, that doesn't look good. So I also use this on the engine bay, on the plastics in the engine bay. I use this on my plastic trim. Also use it like on the door jambs, the plastic portion down there when you open up a car. That lower black plastic a lot of times gets kind of nasty looking. This pearl looks really nice on those. So yeah, there's a lot of uses for this stuff, and it's awesome. And you can dilute it depending on what surface you're using it on, but 3-to-1 is the one that kind of covers a lot of exterior surfaces for me, so that's what I like to use. You can also use Adam's Invisible Undercarriage Spray. This is awesome. It smells like grape, and you spray it into your fender wells if you got plastic fender wells. You know, if you've got if you got the carpet fender wells, you wouldn't use Pearl or this on them. But these two products work well on plastic fender wells. So another thing that I'm going to bring up is this. It's called a hose slide. And this goes underneath the tire. You know, so here's the back of your tire. You put this up against it, and it allows your hose from your pressure washer or your garden hose or whatever to move across the tire. I don't know if there's anything more frustrating than walking around a vehicle with your hose and getting it stuck behind a tire and no longer being able to move or progress. Like, it's almost like the damn Incredible Hulk is holding you back, and I don't care how strong you are, you will not pull that hose any further. It becomes bound and becomes one with the tire, and you can't move. So this little thing, you get 4 of these and put them around all your tires, and you can move around the vehicle freely with your hose, and it's awesome. But you know, I don't put this behind the tire until after I'm finished cleaning it. So I set this down next to me, and then when I finish the tire, I stick this and chalk it up against the back of it, and then my hose is free to roam about the vehicle. So that's another thing. And the last 2 things I'm going to talk about are for comfort. This little 3.5 gallon bucket with a padded foam lid that I can sit on. This is my seat when I'm doing wheels and tires, because you know, it's going to take you a number of minutes to clean the wheels and tires properly. I mean, it's not just a 1 minute thing or 2 minutes. I mean, I probably average 5 to 10 minutes per wheel and per tire. So, you know, I go around the vehicle. It might take me 30 minutes to do all 4 wheels and tires. It might take me 45 minutes. It might take me an hour, depending on how big the wheels and tires are and how dirty they are. So having something to sit on while I'm doing that work is nice. And this is another thing in conjunction with that bucket that I will recommend. And this is a bucket caddy. I put my little 3.5 gallon bucket with a lid on it inside this bucket caddy, and I can move all around the car really easily, and just makes for a nicer experience, and it just saves you some pain. You know, it's all about being comfortable when you're doing this work. Oh, I also need to mention that cleaning the wheels and tires is the first step in the car washing process. I mentioned it in my car washing video, but I want to mention it again here since this is specific to wheels and tires. You know, and so I always start with wheels and tires before I go on to washing the rest of the vehicle. And the reason behind it is you don't want to be cleaning the whole car and then get to the wheels and tires, which are the dirtiest thing on the vehicle, and then start spraying things around and getting things onto a clean paint surface. So that's really the main reason behind it. And that's going to be pretty much the last thing I want to say about my tips and processes and all that for wheels and tires. Thanks for watching the video. I appreciate the viewership and the subscribers. I've gotten some subscribers here lately. It's nice to see that people are watching these videos and hopefully finding them useful. And I'm planning on doing more videos. I've got a couple ideas for some videos this week. I got a GoPro coming. Trying to step up my camera game and get better there. My detail game's strong. Camera game, not so much. But hey, you know, that's what it is, and just takes time to get better. So y'all stay tuned, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much. See y'all.